Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. Well, I've got a terrific guest on my show today. His name is Doug Ichek. Doug does loads of documentaries on Monster Quest, History Channel, every channel out there. Doug has either produced it or been on it. So it's quite welcome. Can we please welcome Doug to the show? Hello there.
Hello, Bob. How are you? And by the way, by the way, you have the best podcast name in the world. I love the name of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank
can't
you.
believe I can't believe that you actually somehow got it.
Out of nowhere.
It's awesome. Yeah, it really is
There
good.
it is. I wanted to talk about the big cat mystery in the Britain's big cat mystery. What first drew you to the attention of this phenomenon of British big cat, and how did you compare the cases you have investigated on Monster Quest?
Boy, it's a kind of a loaded question, but my interest came from me having my own sighting here in Minnesota. And back in I think it was about 2001, I had to make a late night trip to a 24-hour store to buy 1,000 feet of audio cable for a shoot that I was doing on Bigfoot. And we had to leave town. And so suddenly I had this idea of how to communicate with this helium balloon from a helium balloon down to the ground. And so me and my assistant hopped in my car and we drove down my main windy road. And right in front of us, not even 3 blocks from my home, runs what looks like a black Jaguar. Long rope tail, jet black. And it runs in front of my van, and then it crouches as the headlights hit it, and then it takes off again. And I looked at Jay and I go, "Did you see that?" He goes, "Boy, what a coincidence. We're on our way tonight. We're going to leave in an hour or two to leave on a cryptozoology adventure. And here we see a cryptid on our way out." And I said, "Well, it's probably a good sign." So from that moment on, I got interested in the big cat mystery, both here and, of course, it rang bells because I hadn't really heard many stories from the States. But then when I went on the road, after I had my own sighting, I started asking Bigfoot witnesses that I would have an opportunity to interview Bob. And I would say, "Have you ever seen any strange big cats?" And almost in every case, they're like, yeah, we have these big black cats that we always see down here, down south. And I kept interviewing people, and so many people had a big cat story. In fact, some people didn't have a Bigfoot story, but they had a big cat story. So then when I had the opportunity and I was producing Monster Quest, there was an opportunity to cover, and get over to the UK and cover the Bigfoot or the big cat mystery over in the UK. And so, you know how that goes. It's just one thing leads to another. It's certainly, without any doubt, it's as valid of what's going on over there as what's going on over here, but it's more publicized, over in the UK. But man, I've interviewed numerous witnesses over there, and they're so sincere. And then there's the physical evidence, the bite marks, the teeth marks, the tracks. And I don't know where these come from. That's still the one question. Were they one time released pets? Or have they migrated in from the eastern part of Europe and the northern part of Siberia areas? I don't know what they are, and I don't know where they came from here, but a lot of sightings. So I've had my own. Another gentleman I work with has had one, and they had them 4 miles from my home by another group of people who then they ended up closing all the schools here.
So, it's
So
funny you're saying that because in 2017, me and Paul Sinclair was coming home from investigation at
yeah,
Benton on that night. I think it was October the 30th. In the car coming back, and believe it or not, a black panther came straight in front of the car. We both saw it, and we had no cameras there. Well, we had his phones, but we weren't ready for it. It
Right.
trotted across the road in front of us. We stopped the car. It went into edge, and I went, "Look at that! How can that be?"
Yeah, it changes you because suddenly it's not just
with its massive big tail.
the tail. Yep.
We knew exactly what it was. It went into edge. Me being silly, opens door and goes looking at bloody edge. So what am I doing?
That wasn't so smart, Bob. You have more courage than I do. I did not get out of the car.
So we got back in car, went round corner, and we knew there were a gate opening. What stretches, so if you got lights on your car, you could stretch it right down the field. But we couldn't get in; it was waterlogged and all sorts. So I thought, at least we've seen something.
It's fantastic.
And what happened in 1976? A new law came out in the UK where you weren't allowed to have any cats, anything what went to a zoo. You had to hand it into a zoo nearby, or a lot of people just let them loose, went to a forest and just let things go.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. These things are real. People see them. And it becomes a little irritating. Like when people ask you, why didn't you take a picture? I always hear this. Why didn't you take a picture? It's the last thing on your mind.
Of course it is. We were bothered about hitting it. Never mind all else. That's how close it was.
Yeah.
I reckon another 10 seconds we would have killed it probably. We'd have hit it.
Yeah. No, they're very real. I recently, I don't know, it's been about 3 years. I was an executive producer on a big cat mystery documentary called oh God, is it Panthera Britannia is the name? Sorry. And that is, I believe it's still streaming.
Yeah, but, and then Paul interviewed somebody, I think it was last year, had a sighting at the side of a golf course near Danes Dyke.
Yeah.
That's not far away from here.
It's interesting that you say on a golf course because I was filming for a golf show, believe it or not. I got hired to produce a golf show for 4 or 5 episodes. And so we were going to go on this golf course near my home, and we were parked in the car early in the morning. And I say to Mike, I go, why is there an African lion walking across the golf course? It's right in front of us, and we can see it heading towards some golfers who had no idea this thing was coming up on them. And as we looked at it and looked closer, I grabbed my camera, and of course I hadn't changed the batteries, I hadn't put a battery. Batteries were packed away. But we watched this thing come up to these golfers and then head into the woods. And it was a cougar or mountain lion, but it was a really big male. And they're not supposed to be here either, right?
Exactly. We don't have them in the UK. We don't have any animals like that.
Right.
Only ones would be out there if they've been released somewhere.
Yeah, it's a mystery. They're there, and it's kind of eye-opening because it's a big predator. You don't want to run into one.
Exactly. Totally. I totally believe that as well. But besides you and me, there must be loads of people out there who have seen something strange, but years ago won't say anything.
Yeah, of course. Well, most people have no idea where to say it to. So it's usually, a lot of times it's a husband and wife or a buddy and his friend. And they see it, it's a little life-changing, and that's the end of it. It just stops right there. So if we could actually get the data, probably in the UK, maybe 1 to 5% have been reported. And that's it.
Yeah, it does, yeah. How does this film compare to other cryptozoologist documentaries in terms of methodology and credibility?
Well, I think that this new film goes fairly deep, but there's only so much you can do. Whether I was producing Monster Quest on an animal that you can't exactly go film, right? So if you're doing a Bigfoot doc, you can't go film them. You're doing a big cat doc, you can't go film them. All you can do is go out and interview people, collect evidence, have it analyzed, interview scientists, interview eyewitnesses, and then put it all together, whatever we have. And there is still a growing amount of physical evidence on the big cats in the UK. And of course, there's even Bigfoot sightings over there.
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And werewolf sightings.
Yeah, exactly. The dogman sightings. All are an amazing phenomena. And people don't know people have no idea what to do with it, Bob.
When we talk about werewolves and things like that, what do you think they are?
I don't know. I believe absolutely people are seeing what they're saying, because at one point I saw something so out of place and so nuts. I was with Yvette. We were driving down 35W freeway that runs north and south, and clear night, full moon, and we're just driving, relaxing. The radio's playing. There's the song Vincent was playing on the radio. It was just peaceful. And all of a sudden we see this shiny thing in the sky, and we didn't know what it was. It was just very visible, but it was shiny. And all of a sudden it dropped like a spider on a web, stopped immediately right before it hit the freeway in front of us, and then immediately headed right for us. No wing. It clearly had wings, but it wasn't flapping its wings. And it just came right into the windshield. Yvette ducked. I ducked eventually. And we both got a pretty good look at it. And it was like a winged humanoid. Okay, now that's as weird as it gets. I'm the Monster Quest guy.
Exactly, yeah.
Who am I going to report that to, Bob?
Exactly. Who would you?
They're going to think, oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And so you just go, okay, all my paradigms have now shifted. All of them, humbled. At that point, you get a new humble feeling like, don't discount Dogman, don't discount Mothman, don't discount anything, because you now, sir, have just been humbled also. And you've seen something that doesn't belong anywhere. So maybe they're interdimensional. As we learn more and more about this, there's more and more scientists that get on board with this fact that we're living next to all these other dimensions. Maybe that's it. Maybe they're alien. Maybe they're physical, flesh and blood, and they just stay hidden and they're rare. I don't have any idea, but I do know that thing swooped at our car on purpose. That I do know, because the way it dropped from the sky and just headed right for my windshield was really bizarre. And then the fact I found other witnesses in my state that had the exact same experience. And the chances of that are a zillion to one. People see what they see, and very seldom does one wake up and go, you know what, I'm going to make up a story about seeing a big black cat. We're all too busy. We all have bills to pay. We have things to do, people to take care of. It's just, there's no time to make this crap up. And so I think that,
what I think, Doug, as well, when we see things like that, some people can see a UFO or a Bigfoot, and other people can't see it. You might say, look at that sky over there, and they go, what are you talking about? Right over there. And they can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one theory. I'm not sure. I haven't quite bought into that one yet, but I've heard it. I have a friend who has never seen anything in his life. Not one thing, nothing phenomena, paranormal, nothing. And then I asked myself, why is that? Well, it could be chance. It could just be pure luck of the draw. Or it could be that his pineal gland is clogged. It could be that he's not tuned in or he's not observant. I'm very observant. And I think you definitely need to be observant, and you have to
I
be
think
open.
you're right as well. I
Yeah.
think you definitely got to be observant when you go into places like that. Because if you get a negative attitude in you, you'll never see anything.
Yeah, probably. And I do find it odd, though, Bob. You bring up a really good point. Why is it that some people see nothing and other people see so many things? And
And
I've asked myself, I've interviewed myself on the same question, and I have no answers. None. Sorry.
from a scientific standpoint, what would constitute a definite proof of breeding population of big cats in the UK? All the states.
Well, it's got it. Once again, it's going to have to be, bodies take, but that won't prove it either because if they find more bodies of black jaguars or whatever, they're just going to say, well, they release pets. That's going to be the narrative forever.
Yeah.
They're never going to admit that they're breeding in the wild. Of course, the best is to capture one alive. I was involved in a cougar capture down in Worthington, Minnesota years ago. And the cougar, after they captured it, would only eat venison. He wouldn't touch beef. It would just wouldn't eat it.
No.
And so that is a good indication that that's a living, it's living in the wild its whole life. It wasn't a released pet. And that's really about the only way to tell is what does it prefer in its diet. And so they're going to have to capture them alive. So the answer to your question, they're going to have to capture them alive and see what their food preference is.
Yeah, well, they've even said that about Bigfoot, aren't they? Why is there no bones ever found of a Bigfoot?
Yeah, and I always so here's where I go with that. First off, if I'm just meeting somebody, doesn't know anything about the topic, and they'll say that to me, it's one of the first things they'll bring up. And I'll say, well, here's what's interesting. We may actually have fossils of Bigfoot, but we don't have any fossils of white-tailed deer, cougars, modern buffalo. None of our modern animals do have any fossils, but we may have fossils of Bigfoot in the form of teeth and a jaw of Gigantopithecus, which was a big upright ape that probably walked upright. So, and that kind of makes them go, oh, really? And then I'll show them either photos or my real physical giganto skull behind me. And it tends to make them think. So now I've opened the channel in their brain. Okay. And then I go into and tell them how it's very much a geographic problem. It's a geographic mystery. Wherever there's woods, water, and hills, you generally have sightings, or at least two of those ingredients. You never have them far away from water. You never have them when there's no woods nearby or corridors. So why is that? Well, it's a geographic issue. And so that points to a living, breathing population. So I tell them that. And then I tell them that the rate of incidents that are encounters that are reported is maybe 1%. It's just absolutely tiny. And so we kind of go on and on about all of the stats of this creature. And then I get into the fingerprints. And what I'm working on right now is collecting the sebum, or what they call surface skin lipids. And you have the latent details, Bob, so you can see the actual, the hoops and whorls and the friction ridges on the fingers, which cannot be faked. And then you have the sebum collected, and then you have DNA in the sebum. But here's the magic. In the sebum is going to have its own chemistry compound. Humans have their own differences between all great apes. All great apes have their own chemical compound. For instance, humans have cholesterol in their sebum, their skin oil.
Yeah.
Gorillas don't. I can go on. And so we have all those other animals and primates have been tested. So we know what the chemical compound of all of the other primates are. And so now we're working on comparing Bigfoot sebum Okay, so let's say it's unique and I have 12 samples taken all over the country. And you have the photos of the latent details. Now you can test the sebum for sloughed off skin cells, and now you can get DNA. So you have 3D evidence. It's going to be really hard to refute it because it can be repeated over and over. Because one of the things that's probably the easiest evidence to either get, repeat, or collect are handprints, because they have a very thick, waxy type skin oil. They leave a lot of residue when they touch things. And that would make sense, because what would an animal need living out in the wild? It would need grip.
Yeah.
And anything like that helps us grip. It's what our skin oil does, and why we have sweat pores and skin oil coming out of our fingertips. It helps us grab things. They would also be able to, if they had a lot of sebum and more of it, they could literally, it would offer protection from the weather, from bugs. I can go on a whole litany of things, and it would make sense why they would have a thicker, waxier SSL. So there you go.
I've answered that question before. Right, let's have a think. Why do you think Britain, especially, has such a persistent and widespread big cat legend compared to other countries?
Oh, when you're talking about the UK compared to other
things and cats.
Well, I would probably have to say the climate, the fact that the UK is actually a lot more wilderness. I've been all through Europe, and from what I know, the UK has got a lot of forest, a lot of deer, a lot more prey than some of these other countries. And I just think that they're reported more because we share a language, and so it's got more publicity, with the US and the UK speaking English. I just think it just gets more publicity. From what I know about, like, let's just say Germany, they just are a different type of they're just more serious. They look at life in a very serious way in some ways. Does that make any sense? They're just more business-like in some ways. I was over in Germany. That just amazed me, watching people even go to work in the morning. They're just more like have less time to talk about things that maybe they don't deem important. And so I think some of it's just cultural, Bob. That's what I'm trying to say.
There's a question here from the Reverend Wolf. I found a real fossilized body of a kraken. It was not a squid, but she thinks the species of a giant Pacific octopus.
Yeah, and that very well could be, because I believe that invertebrates like an octopus, like the giant Pacific octopus, could possibly get 10 times the size they are if they don't breed. If they decide to get out of their niche and say, hey, I'm not laying eggs, I'm not going to have young, and whether they do it consciously or whatever, and then they can just keep growing. Because there's no reason they would die, because octopuses have a very short life. They breed and they die. They guard their eggs for months and months and months and months, if not years, and then they die. They starve themselves to death, and for other reasons. And so if a giant Pacific octopus, which can get like 6, 7, 8 feet, decided not to breed, there's no reason they couldn't get to 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet, and never be discovered. So there you go.
Do you think technology has helped to hunt Bigfoot investigations, or do you think it's things?
Well, it hasn't helped yet, because we've been using all sorts of AI cameras and smaller cameras, but I'm just one guy. I think it will help as cameras that continue to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and smaller, and continue to have farther range for Wi-Fi. And no, I think it will help, and I think it has helped. It certainly helped us collect more and more and better audio. So I'm already seeing a big change in the audio that people are collecting. And that's amazing evidence too. But most people are still, researchers, which are in the hundreds, not that many. Most are still using game trail cameras or have given up on game trail cameras. And they haven't switched now to the smaller surveillance cameras that can be purchased. Like Wise cameras. And that's spelled YWZE. And those are the cameras I recommend right now. They can take an SD card, or they can be hooked up wireless, but they have microphones on them and AI technology. And they're constant on. That's the kind of the technology. So I think it will help us. I think at some point, Bob, we're going to all have, I bet you own a printer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they don't cost much anymore, do they? But the cartridges are kind of, you pay a lot when you buy a cartridge. But I believe that within 10 years, you'll be able to buy your own DNA machine. It'll be probably the price of a printer. And you'll buy cartridges for it. And then you can have all sorts of fun, figuring out what breed your dog is and your cats and, doing people and ancestry. But you'll do it in the privacy of your own home, DNA. I think that's coming real soon. Like I said, within 10 years.
Do you think Bigfoot is interdimensional? And do you think it's because there's been a lot of sightings around Bigfoot and there's been alien craft being seen around him as well?
Well, here's how I answer that question. I don't know. I'm open-minded to it, right? But I have no opinion on it. I know that whatever it is, they leave physical traces. That I do know. They throw rocks, very physical. They do funny things that don't make sense all the time. But as I've been doing research for, well over 40 years now, I, see patterns that I notice. One is kind of an autistic behavior. They throw fits. They lose their temper. They like to hide. They organize things, sticks in the forest. They seem to want to communicate, but they operate on fear. They do and they don't. They like to take quick risks, really fast, but only for a second or two. They'll come up and smack your house or your cabin and run. They'll play with things over and over and over and over. I've heard them, I was at this cabin. It was off the grid, about 11 miles into a logging trail to get there. But it was a beautiful place. And I'd rented it with my son and my best friend and brought my daughter. 3 a.m, I hear the recycling bin that's on the porch opening and closing over and over and over.
Yeah.
Then I hear the glass one or the aluminum one opening and closing over and over and over. And then I hear it walking down and playing with the Velcro on Joe's tonneau cover. Then walking back up to the porch, playing with that lid, kind of opening and closing it, maybe 30 times, going next door doing that. And then eventually it just went whack it hit the building so hard, the cabin we were in, it shoved the bed forward. And my daughter got to experience that. And I'd never heard my daughter swear or use bad language. But it was like a semi-truck hit the cabin. And that's what I always call the grand finale. And that they're gone. After they do that, they run. They're just gone. But are they interdimensional? I don't know. At that time, I thought, God, that felt like a semi-truck hit the cabin.
Oh,
I'm not joking. It was like a truck hit it because our bed moved, inches from the wall. And so I thought, well, it's got to be paranormal. There's no way a physical animal could do that. But then you switch back. It could do that. These things are extremely powerful and extremely big, big males. But you go back and forth. But I'm just open-minded, Bob. I have no idea. I don't know. I absolutely know nothing except patterns. So I know patterns well that I've experienced firsthand and have, heard from other people through the years.
Yeah, when you're saying about patterns, Is there more sightings in the winter months and the summer months?
No, far less. But that could be attributed to the fact people aren't using the outdoors as much. But I think that these things are very individual. I think some could be healthy and willing to travel into warmer climates. Some are maybe more into following the food chain. As the berries ripen, they follow them north. I've seen that pattern over and over again. I've seen the southerly pattern, but that doesn't mean every animal or creature is going to travel or migrate. Some may go, I don't want to do that walk. I'm staying right here. I want to get away from you people. You go. Leave me here. Whatever. Or maybe it's old. It's sick. It can't make the journey. Or maybe, it wants to hang out because it loves the cold weather. Just like some people do. I have friends that they play outside. They love winter. It's their favorite time of year. And other friends hate it. I don't think they'd be any different.
Why do you think Bigfoot continues to capture public imagination after all these years?
Because it's fueled every single day. That's why. It's not going away. It's fueled by new sightings every day. And when you have that fuel going in, the wood being tossed into the fire every day, it's just going to continue and it's never going to go away. I don't care who comes out with what thing or argument to debunk it. It ain't going away.
I know in Washington State, you're not allowed to shoot a Bigfoot.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Bob.
In Washington State, you're not allowed to shoot a Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah, they passed a law. Was that a joke? I don't know. Probably not. Washington State, from personal experience, leads the way in blocking off trails that have had Bigfoot sightings. If somebody has a sighting and reports it, there's a fence up immediately with chains on it to keep people out of that area. Sometimes they close them permanently, where there's been sightings. I've witnessed that firsthand. And they lead kind of the deal like that. And so is that a joke? Why did the Army Corps of Engineers include it in their atlas, right? The Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. It's interesting. I don't know the history, but I find it interesting. And, somebody pushed for that law, and somebody in New York, a gentleman I know, pushed for the law in upstate New York for the town of Whitehall to pass also an ordinance. It's against the law to shoot a Bigfoot. It's harmless, I guess, to put these laws in. I don't feel that anybody's going to have any luck shooting one anyhow.
Do you think government have got a Bigfoot then?
Yeah, okay, that's kind of a fun topic. Okay, first question is, if you had an unlimited budget, why wouldn't you have a small group of trained men from the government, some three-letter agency on it to investigate, to monitor you, me, the podcast, conferences, interesting stories? Why wouldn't they? I mean, they have an unlimited budget. So I'm guessing they have probably a department of 5 government officials that do nothing but work on the Bigfoot mystery. Now, what they know and we don't know, I have no idea. But it would just actually be very surprising if they weren't interested in it. Because people are always out in the open, report mind speak, they report all this paranormal stuff. And we all know the government's interested in that stuff because they can weaponize it, right? If they could control it, they could weaponize it. So, and once again, is mind speak real? I don't know, but I guarantee that they're investigating people that claim it or, monitoring the reports, collecting data. So I'll bet you they have the biggest database of anyway.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they have.
Yep.
What got you interested in the Bigfoot then?
I was a wildlife researcher. Started out as a wildlife photographer, Bob, and then started meeting. I think I would meet scientists or regular biologists, PhDs that were working on this and that. I'd meet them through my photography, and through conversations, I'd ask them a ton of questions, right? I'm Mr. Curious. So I just kept like, well, what is a bear? Do they really hibernate, for instance? What do they do on? Well, we don't really know out here. And I'm like, well, gee, let's find out. I got ideas. So I started doing a lot of surveillance camera work in different undisclosed worlds, beaver lodges, bear dens, underwater. I was building all sorts of stuff, but working in partnership with scientists. And ended up being very successful in that. And one day I was up in the Arctic and I was up doing photography up there. And I was on a lake called Knowlton Lake. And they had just opened up tents. They had like a tent camp.
Yeah.
And I went up there and it was just amazing. And I'd never, it was like my first trip up to the Arctic. And I am fishing in, let me think, the Windy River that flows out of Knowlton Lake into the Arctic Ocean. And I'm at the mouth of the Windy River, and I'm reeling in about a 30-pound lake trout. I mean, I'm just fishing, for sport fishing. Barbless hook. I'm using a barbless hook so I don't injure the fish. I'm releasing them, netting them in a cradle, measuring them, doing photography, documenting their size, and letting them go. Okay. But I'm reeling in one of these fish, and all of a sudden I see about 7 foot long fish, which was a lake trout. Can clearly see it was a trout. And it's following the fish that I'm battling, which is about 30 pounds, the one I'm battling. This fish looked to be like 200 pounds. And I'm like, scratching my eyes. And I look at my guide and I go, did you see that? And he goes, I've seen them before. He goes, we can't catch them. They're too slow. And I went, okay, well, let's back the truck up. And I'm talking to him. So I get home and I come up with a theory based on something actually that Al Linder wrote of the Inn Fisherman about northern pike. How he felt that some of the big northern pike get really outsized because they get out of their niche. Once again, they don't breed. They're females, they don't breed. So I'm thinking, female, trout, didn't breed, it's 100 years old. Because even a 30-pound fish can be 100 years old up there, right?
Right.
And they're wise. You get them in the cradle and they look at you with their eyes. And it's insane going, you have so much respect for that animal because it's examining. I mean, you can watch it looking around, and it's like, I get it. You're 120 years old. Why wouldn't you be wise? And so you release it, photograph it. But this fish stuck in my mind. I'm like, okay. So I started getting the theories of that. And so I get a hold of a fishery biologist, talk him in. I'm really good, Bob, at talking people into doing dumb things, right?
Good.
I've been doing this since I was a kid. So I talked to a biologist to go up with me up to the Arctic. And so we went up there and we built big lures with, big, huge lures, 2, 3, 4 feet long with cameras built in them. And our goal was to get footage of one of these giant trout. Okay. And so we go up there and one day it's really windy and I've got to take a leak. And so I said, let's go to shore. And we go to shore so we can not pee on each other in the wind and the waves.
It's a wind.
Yeah. And so it's the last thing you want to have happen to you. And so we go to shore and there's footprints coming out of the water onto the beach, very clear in this beautiful sand. They're fresh. They're very human-like, wide heel, just have all the aspects of human, but much bigger. And we're like, what? And so we start following the tracks through the pea gravel, through the moss, up to a tree stand. And there was a footprint in front of the tree trunk and one directly behind it because the prints were in a tightrope. They were just one footprint exactly in front of the other one. And so there's a footprint right in front of the trunk and one behind it. And my buddy goes, we need to leave now. We have to go now. I said, no. I want to film all this stuff. So I'm like, and so I film all the prints. I said, we got to go beyond this little stand of stunted footprints. So what it had done, Bob, is stepped over like a 7-foot, 8-foot tree.
Oh my God.
And stepped over the top like you would a weed in a field. These are, 100-year-old stunted black spruce trees. They're fairly flexible because they're stunted and they're not real tall. And there's not many trees up there because of the short growing season. And so we get beyond that little stand of trees, and there you can see out in the tundra that was a little rolling, these straight line footprints going off into the horizon. Now we're talking thousands of footprints that we can see.
Oh,
and so I'm like, okay, I have a broadcast quality camera. I have footprints that we can follow from the air. Let's get back to camp. It was a tent camp. Let's get back to camp and see if we can talk the float plane pilot into taking us up, because whatever it is, we can find it. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Brilliant, right? That's a brilliant idea I came up with. So we go to the tent, we get back. It's like a 30, 40-minute ride back through the worst heavy waves. We call it the butt slap. And so we're just getting pounded to death. We get back and we run into the camp or the pilot's tent. And we just talking really quick. We got to get you out. We got to get the plane up. And he thought we were playing a hoax on him, apparently.
Oh, God.
He's holding a clipboard because he's doing inventory for the camp of things he needs flown in.
Yeah.
And he takes his clipboard and he whips it at the tent wall so hard. And we looked at him and his face was just cherry red. He was so angry that we were trying to. It's kind of a common thing when we do these camps. Usually there's a victim. Somebody gets pranked on because it's just something we do, because we don't. Yeah. There's nothing else to do, right? But just prank people once in a while at night and, short cast the rods, put eggs in their sleeping bag, things like that. Just harmless things.
Yeah.
But he thought we were pranking him, got quite angry. And we literally, just slinked out of that tent and didn't ever have the courage to ask him again. But I regret that so bad. I get home, I can't get it out of my mind. I can't think of anything else. So now I want to do research on this. So I start doing research on it, and I'm thinking, whatever. I didn't find that much information, but except, numbers of internet stuff. Finally, I came upon the BFRO, and I got a hold of Matt Moneymaker.
Oh, yeah, Matt, yeah.
Yep, I got a hold of Matt, and I started asking him questions and told him, what the footprints we found and about my background. We got to know each other. Next thing you know, Matt's flying up to meet me, and we got together and we decided we were going to do Legend Meets Science to try to get, because I was shocked at all the info he had told me. Like, he was telling me some of the things I was telling you. He just said the lines like, oh, anywhere there's woods, water, and hills, you're probably going to have sightings. Like, well, that's a kind of a revelation. And he would give me all of the, facts on how many sightings and blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, they were probably up there, hunting caribou up in that area that you were in. And yeah, the caribou do calf that time of year. And so, yeah, it would be easy pickings. And there's berries everywhere up there. So it didn't surprise him. And so anyhow, we ended up pitching Legend Meets Science. Eventually that came to fruition for Discovery Channel, and the rest is history. I mean,
did you go, Matt, Doug, did you go back up there then?
Oh, I've been up there a ton of times more. Yeah, of course. But I have not had any experiences. That's a big area up there.
Oh, I should imagine it is.
That was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to go
because
after.
A lot of people go missing up there as well, isn't they?
Yeah. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance that I had, and I will be regretful my entire life not convincing this man that we were not playing a joke on him. Because could you imagine coming upon an animal out in the open, or a creature out in the open?
Yeah, with
everything. With a slow-flying airplane and a good camera, we could have really gathered a lot of evidence because there's no way it could hide. No way.
Yeah, because the evidence these days are far and far between.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
either a short sighting or the camera's got you can't keep it still because you're so intense. And there's many times when people have said, I've seen a Bigfoot, why didn't you take a photo? Because I was more interested in watching it and not thinking of taking a photo.
yeah, right. And photos are somewhat, unless they're clear, daytime, sequential, still photos, they're pretty worthless. And same with video. It has to be out in the open so we can look at the muscles, look at the gait. And that's rare. It's really rare to have all those circumstances happen.
And you do lots of different documentaries on different creatures as well out there.
Yeah. We live in a great world, Bob. There's a lot of strange stuff out there that people see. And I used to think a lot of it was horse mucky. And I don't anymore since me and Yvette had our sighting of this winged humanoid kind of thing that swooped at us.
Yeah. What do you think that was then?
I have no idea. None. But what I do know is I met then Lon Strickler years later, who has been investigating the same things all over Chicago. I mean, pilots are seeing them, baggage handlers, homeowners. Even Lon had his own sighting. And so when you get a whole plethora of witnesses, they can't all be wrong, right?
Oh,
And
no.
so, people always say, well, that's just anecdotal evidence. Well, anecdotal, but without people seeing things, it's pretty much the start of everything.
What about folklore?
Yeah, folklore. I'm sure it's all based on truth. It has to be. People just, go back hundreds of years. Do you really think people had time to just make up a bunch of stories that to this day there's still eyewitnesses to? It seems beyond a coincidence. So I'm sure there's some truth to all folklore.
The Native American Indians swore about Bigfoot.
Yeah, of course.
Dealing with them, and they were giving them fish and they were giving them some fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that there are hundreds of names in North America for Bigfoot is just, you can't even fathom it. Why did all these tribes that had no communication with each other on the West Coast, the East Coast, and they all had names for these creatures? All of them did. I think even in Africa, there's a name, the Otang.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Gareth Patterson wrote a book, the Secret Elephants. He was a witness to Otangs down there. Very trusted biologist. But these are just anecdotal sightings. You just throw them in the garbage, even though it's by a trained biologist.
When you interview people, and they say, look, I've seen something. I don't know what it is, but I want to tell you the story from years ago. After you've interviewed them, what do they say then to you?
Well, I get calls like, I've done a lot of black bear research, right? And so I'll get calls even about black bears. So a lot of times people have a sighting, they'll look up black bear experts. So they see a Bigfoot, and they're now in their mind trying to think, oh, it's got to be a black bear walking on its hind feet.
Yeah.
So I've taken numerous calls like that, and they will argue with me. Well, I'll ask them, how big were the shoulders? How wide? Oh, about 4 feet. What did it do? I came walking out of the apple orchard, and then it came to the railroad tracks and started walked in front of my car and started walking down the railroad tracks. And I'll say, well, broad shoulders, black bears have 0 collarbones. They don't have no shoulders sloping. And then you say that broad shoulders. How tall? Oh, maybe 9 feet. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And I'll say, well, I think you saw a Bigfoot. And they're like, there's no way that was a Bigfoot. They don't exist. And they'll argue with me. And I'll just And literally at the end, they're winning the argument, and they're just like, "No way, goodbye." That was a black bear, even though their description doesn't match. There's a lot of those things that happen, and then there's probably some people that do see black bears that are reported as Bigfoots, right? I mean, that could happen in reverse, but black bears are pretty distinct. They have the long snout.
Oh, they are.
They're very distinct.
It's totally different completely.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think that happens.
They only stand up to have a look to see if they can see anything.
Yeah.
And they get back down again.
Yep, of course. There's a rare case of some injured bear.
And they start running like that. They have to get back down to run.
Right. So, the whole thing is just kind of, it's been a crazy life I've had ever since I found those tracks. So I owe my entire career, this is true, I owe my entire career of television probably to me having to go to the bathroom on that boat.
Oh,
it wasn't the butterfly effect. It was the fly effect.
Yes.
To make a bad dad joke.
What are you planning for the future then, in your documentaries then?
Well, okay, so I did Legend Meets Science, started working on Legend Meets Science 2, and then COVID hit, and that caused a big delay, and there were other delays that had that we want to get into, but then we started filming. Anyhow, we have so much footage now to edit. We have enough, probably, I may be able to get 20 hours of programming with all of the segments that we've filmed for Legend Meets Science 2. So I'm still waiting for the dang forensic test to come back.
Oh, I bet you are.
And I keep getting promised, and they keep breaking their promises, and they keep not hitting these dates. And that kind of goes on all of these big conclusions. I don't want to release anything until those conclusions come in, because it's the foundation of the entire doc. And so I'm patiently waiting and waiting. Keep thinking, okay, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow they're coming in. It just hasn't happened.
Bob,
we've given them fresh collected blood even.
Oh my God.
Found in footprints. In like the left foot only. We found so many things that we've collected, and we have, and then collected with a DNA kit, fresh frozen and still liquid. Now, if you can't do anything with fresh frozen blood found in a footprint, highly vetted, it's like, come on. I don't know.
That were yours or mine, and you took it to somebody did know they'd get it straight away for you.
Yeah, right. Ever since COVID, there's been so many more lab protocols, which is really interesting. Labs are all running scared right now all over the country. I don't know why. There's just a ton more paperwork, protocols. You wouldn't believe it, what the barriers that labs are putting up right now.
I can imagine so.
It's scary. So anyhow, I'm struggling, but if I have to do it, I'm just going to say the hell with it and start editing. I'm a very quick editor, and these are going to be 20 hours of long form. Like an example, a trained hypnotic therapist hypnotizing numerous witnesses, in the process of how it's done, the reaction under hypnosis, the tears, the screams, all the stuff. That can be one show. That's an example of a category. And that'll be, at least end up as an hour. Could even be 2 hours just for that one show. So I'm calculating all the things that we've shot, and all shot in, like 8K. I believe we have enough for 20 hours of shows.
It must be exciting when you get to a point like that, think, right, we're going to do this. Hopefully it'll all come off, and it'd be fantastic to get that news out there.
Yeah. So I'm excited, but I'm patient. I'm a very patient guy. I'm like, I've had my career. I'm somewhat retired now. This will probably be my last project. I don't know. I don't know what else I'd want to do after this. in the TV. I'm old and tired. And so I'm doing now. I want to do things I want to do things that I really enjoy. One of the things I really enjoy is music. And for years I said, when I retire, I'm going to start a record label.
Right.
And I did. I retired and I started a record label. I'm doing that right now. I've been restoring old motorcycles, just, kind of things like that. So the film thing, this probably will be my last big project. But I want to do a really good job on it. And then Jeff died, of course, was another huge delay. Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah.
And Jeff was like a brother to me in so many levels and working so close. It was a huge blow. So suddenly.
Was that unexpected then?
Pardon, Bob?
Was it unexpected with Jeff?
Yeah. I don't want to really get into too much until his family comes forward, but basically he became ill, found out he was ill, and died very shortly after. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It was very quick.
A great loss.
And Jeff was such a gentleman and such a well-spoken rep for this mystery, for the Bigfoot mystery. I don't know if anybody can step into his shoes.
It was his heart and soul that wanted it.
Yeah.
He loved Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah. No, but he was so kind to everybody, he'd go to conferences and it didn't matter who you were. He would be one-on-one with you talking about, your sighting, whatever. He made everybody feel wonderful. Jeff will not be replaced. Not soon, that's for sure. But it's also caused a big delay for me because he was writing the book, the companion book, Legend Means Science 2. So we were paralleling our projects together.
Right.
And now the book isn't totally done, but we're hoping that we can finish it and I'll publish it through my publishing company, Hanger One Publishing.
Yeah, Hanger One, yeah.
My boys will take over and we'll just get contributors to finish it, like Cliff Brockman and other people who, knew Jeff and knew the message he wanted to get across. So,
do you think in the future there could be more different animal sightings of unusual creatures?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine something new will pop up. Sure, why not? I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot new since the chupacabra, right? That was the latest and greatest one, and I don't know if that had any legs at all, because if something doesn't continue to get fueled, and then it was so not fueled, then people were going, "Oh yeah, I saw a chupacabra," and they were talking about a coyote with mange, right, with spider mite infections. And I'm like, well, that's not what the original chupacabra stories were like. Little monkey-like creatures up in a tree with big fangs that would suck chickens and goats' blood dry, right? And suddenly it went to a mangy coyote. I'm like, no. So since the chupacabra, nothing new has come forward, but there's the old ones like the pig man and things like that are really odd, right? The sheep man, the goat man. So we've had those, but usually they die right away, right? They'll be sensational for a day or two or a week, but then they kind of die out because they're not being fueled. These things need fuel. When's the last time you heard about a unicorn sighting?
Exactly. Yeah.
None.
When we talk about in the UK about dogmen sightings, there's been a couple in 23,
right,
a few years ago.
Right. Well, that's fuel. I mean, that is fuel. There's quite a few dogman sightings.
2022 and 2023, a year in between.
Mm-hmm.
And where they were both being seen was not half a mile between each other.
Right.
In 1 year to the next year. And nearly one was in November and one was in January of the next year.
Right.
And by people who've never met each other in their life and went there for a holiday on top of cliffs and seen some what they said, if you watch Harry Potter, it's the werewolf of that. Both of them said the same thing.
Are we manifesting? So that's a possibility too. I've thought about that. Are we manifesting these creatures through film and things we see on TV or ancient memories? But are we manifesting things? If you believe the world's a matrix, maybe we are. I'm no expert on any of it. I'm just like, I'm open-minded. Whatever the conclusion is 100 years from now, I'm buying into it.
Oh, God, yeah. I know. It just makes you wonder what is out there.
Right. We live in a crazy world. I will tell you this. Once you've seen something like I have, when you take the garbage out on Wednesdays, your head's on a swivel.
Oh, yes, yeah. Looking around thinking, what?
Yeah. Am I safe? Is the coast clear?
And it's funny when I go with Paul Sinclair and we go to Bempton, it's a place where some people go up there and say, I don't like it up here.
Yeah.
There's something about this place I do not like. Can we go? I said, we've only just got here. Car parks about half a mile away.
Yeah.
Well, you want me to walk you right back there and then walk on my own back here?
Yeah.
You're safe here. There's 4 of us here. Just stop here. We're all right for a few hours. And they're on edge all the time.
Yeah.
Just scared.
So I got to ask you a question, Bob. You're obviously doing this podcast for a reason.
Yeah.
You must really enjoy the topic and the people you meet. And
I do. I really enjoy it. And I really love interviewing people.
Yeah.
Finding out about themselves, what they've been doing, what sightings they've seen.
Right.
And all around the world, even Australia or North Korea.
Yeah. Well, you can tell you love what you're doing.
You just don't know what you're going to see. There's many times when I've gone up to Bempton and we see these orange lights in the sky.
Yeah.
Like 14 in a 20-minute spell. They are over there, then they move over here.
Yeah.
We don't know what they are. They seem to be there. And if you do, and if you take somebody else up who's never seen anything in their life, and they seem to appear for that person, and they go, "Is them lights up there?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I've never seen nothing like that in my life." And he's even got them on video for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
And we might have been up 4 months earlier, never seen a thing.
Yeah. Like me and Yvette, we just saw pink orbs. They were bright Pepto-Bismol pink, glowing pink, 2 big orbs traveling together. And they came right to our car, just above the windshield. One zipped off and one blinked out.
These orange orbs are in this above the sea level.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing the trawlers out there.
Right.
They've got lights on, so we know what's actually out there. But these appear in the sky, and they're very big. And they might just they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they'll be there for a while, and then they'll go away. And then they might appear over this side, in front of us. So they might be from east side and come across to west side. What are they? Got to be some sort of alien technology.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of weird things in the sky. That's for dang sure. And I have no idea. We keep getting drips and drabs of disclosure, but it's just drips and drabs.
Yeah, somebody was saying that Trump's going to make a speech in June. I don't know if it's true. He said he's written it all down and everything. I've had this from good source, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. But there are weird things that we are hearing from, like the U.S. government at times. There's certain members of Congress that will go, "Oh, we've got a breeding program that this whistleblower came in and there was this high-ranking military guy, and we're breeding with aliens." And I'm like, okay, this is not like, did I go into a new dimension myself? hearing stories like this.
Yeah.
But we're living in exciting times, Bob. For sure.
Oh, so we are. We are.
It's exciting times.
And we'll just see what happens in the next few months.
Yeah. It gets us up in the morning.
Oh, it does. Same with me. I'm getting older, and I'm not saying I'm wiser, but I still like going out,
Yeah.
investigating when I can.
Yeah.
I've had two knees done. I've had a hip done. But I still want to go out there when I feel all right.
Yeah. Well,
In
that's
middle at
good.
night sometime. Dark and miserable and frosty nights, and then you think, what am I doing up here?
Yeah, exactly.
You look at each other and say, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it's freezing, it's frosty.
Yeah. Frosty.
Yeah, it's crunchy when you walk and you're thinking, my God, who else is up here? Not a soul. Or they're watching us.
Yeah. It's funny. By the way, you've had your fossilized squid comment up now for a good hour.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
I just hit me. I'm like, oh
Yeah, Janice had just said here something about I don't walk in acquaintance of mine says she's seen orbs when she's on the loo. She thinks they're her family.
okay. They may be her family.
Yes, yeah. They come around you sometimes.
Yeah, we've had an experience where we had an orb during the day approach us. That was black. It was just a black ball that was changing shapes. It was going from a circle to an oval to a diamond.
Oh,
and it was about 5-6 feet from my head, right?
Oh my
and
God.
Yvette saw it. She screamed, and we went, and she jerked back, and the thing jerked back as if it reacted to her screaming.
Yeah.
And I slowly grabbed my cell phone that was on the little. We're outside sunbathing, and I grabbed my phone and slowly put it on my lap and turn it on and flip through. Okay, now I'm on. Okay, there's picture, now it's on video, and I swing my arm around to film it, and it shot up to the sky, into the clouds, and then we went in the house, I believe into the garage to just look at the footage, and we did get footage of it up. I was just kind of blindly filming as it shot up to the clouds, and we did get it. We got good footage.
Oh, brilliant!
And then we came outside to see, what was going on. We wanted to finish sunbathing. And here comes one out of the water right in front of us. We live on a lake. And so it just shot out of the water and went straight up. We witnessed that firsthand, broad daylight.
That's amazing.
And so when there's disclosure, I'm like, well, we already know. We've seen this stuff. Yeah, they're living in our water. They're living in the lakes, ocean. There's no doubt.
Well, we live by the sea, like the North Sea. Yeah. We've been at cliffs, and I've seen a triangle, quite a massive one in the sea, with lights.
Yeah.
And we watched it for 20 minutes, and it gradually moved out into the sea, into the North Sea, and went away. And we both turned to his right-hand side, and we saw a rectangle object, 100 foot by 50 foot, at side of cliff, and it was red in colour. You just couldn't believe, you couldn't make stories up like that.
Yeah.
And we both turned at the same time. I couldn't understand if one of us had turned, but I don't know why, but we both turned at the same time and went, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it's a
crazy world.
We live in an amazing world, and I'm glad we do. Maybe it's all just to entertain us, Bob.
Yes, quite possibly.
It could all just be entertainment.
Yeah. But thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Bob, for inviting me. It's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Anything I can do to support you would be awesome.
Yes.
You let me know. You let me know if you need anything.
And I will come on your show sometime.
I'd love to have you on. Sure. I'd love to.
About Bigfoot, about Men in Black. I've had this somebody came to visit
You're
me.
gonna have to stay up really late to come on our show because we start at 7:40 Central Time.
Oh,
And
so
you
that'll
guys are
be,
about 6 hours ahead of us.
if you're Eastern time, it's 5 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah, 5 hours
so it'd
difference.
be in the middle of the night, or
Why it would be, yeah.
yeah. So you let me know if you want to do it. You're just gonna have to get up in the middle of the night.
Or just stop up.
Yeah, there you go. Save
Yeah,
up on
the
your
sighting
sleep.
a big Men in Black in 2017.
But we'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to have you on.
Came knocking at my door.
You tell me when you're ready to do it.
I will do.
All right. Sounds good. Well, you have a great day, and I really do.
Yes.
I
Thank you
do
very much.
appreciate.
And you have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bob.
And I'll keep following you.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
And you're a friend of mine, mate, Paul Sinclair, anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, thank you to everybody in the chat room as well. What a great guest was Doug tonight. Thank you again. Good night and God bless. Bye for now.